Welcome to the Lifestyle Chase. This podcast features high performers who have found a way to live their best life while balancing their health, wellness, friends, and family. Proudly hosted by me, Chris Little. Without further ado, let's get started. Welcome to episode 5 of the Lifestyle Chase. Today here with me is the one and only Ruhee. How are you doing today?
Good. Cold, but good.
Cold? Well, I mean, it could get colder.
That's true. It's not Calgary.
Yeah, how much snow did they get?
Too much snow.
Like a foot or something.
Way too much snow.
What was your day like today? What's a typical day in the life of Ruhee look like?
Typical day. All right. Well, usually I wake up bright and early around, depending on the day, either around 5 or 6. And if I'm not teaching a spin class, then I'm usually heading to the gym first thing in the morning, lifting some iron, doing that fun stuff, and then head over to the clinic and work all day. And then, I don't know, that's it really.
What's your favorite lift to do in the gym?
My favorite lift? What is my favorite lift? They've changed. I think deadlifts now are my favorite.
Sweet. Did you learn to breathe?
I've learned to breathe.
That's good.
Yes.
That's exciting.
Yes, gotten better at that.
That's awesome. So, I've always seen you as someone who is really relatable. What was your childhood like? I like to dig deep and kind of figure out, what was a person's upbringing like and find out why I kind of connect with them so much.
My childhood, was pretty typical. I'm lucky. I've got a great family. I'm an only child, so, my parents are really just my best friends. Which means we fight all the time, but, it's good. This little girl running around, and I used to do things like dance classes, and I used to play the piano. So my parents were always taking me from activity to activity, doing all that kind of thing. I did have a little brother who unfortunately passed away at 10 months old, but, so that obviously shaped a lot of kind of, I guess, where my life would eventually end up going. Kind of sucked. I always wanted to have a sibling, but I'm really lucky and blessed to have an amazing family, and my cousins and I on both my parents' side are really close, so they basically act as my siblings. So they boss me around and I get to boss them around. It's fun times.
That's awesome. Did you grow up in Edmonton?
I grew up in Edmonton. Yeah, born and raised here. Lived here basically my entire life, other than the small move I made, to Australia to do my master's degree. But other than that, Edmonton's always been home.
In school, were you a popular kid? What kind of clique did you fall into?
I wouldn't say I was the most popular kid. I think I was bullied a little bit. But I don't think at that time, it wasn't as maybe severe at the time as what you would call bullying to be when we were growing up. I think now there's a lot more attention being brought to that act of bullying and how it can be sort of portrayed in so many different ways. And I think when I was growing up, it wasn't really like that. I think that if, people sort of pulled your pants down or threw you in a locker or something, that would be considered bullying, whereas that didn't really happen to me, thankfully. But, I wasn't necessarily treated with the utmost respect growing up. Funny, actually, I just read an article, I think, or I heard something about this just a couple days ago, where they were saying that, girls have sort of always been taught that if boys make fun of them, it's because they like them. And I remember teachers telling me that at a very young age. And so I kind of just thought, oh, well, whatever. But I wasn't the most popular kid. I wouldn't say I wasn't the least popular kid. I was kind of just in the middle and sort of was straddling the line there. But, you have your cliques that sort of aren't the nicest to you, and then the cliques that are really, really nice to you. So...
Were you an academic? Were you into sports? Were you a nerd?
I was none of those things.
Oh.
Technically, I guess I was an academic. I didn't really, I wasn't the smartest kid in school by any means. I guess you could say I was sporty, but not in terms of actual sports, in hockey and that kind of thing. I danced a lot, so that was just sort of what I did growing up. I did tap, ballet, jazz, And that would kind of be my social life with my friends, and I would always have the best time doing that kind of thing. So
Nice. How long did you do dance for?
um I danced till I was 17, so
Okay.
and I probably started when I was really young, like 3 or 4.
It's just like everybody that does dance, just like start it young and then pretty much go
Kept
until it's
going.
either can be a career or just like a
Yeah, I think like
pastime
when
kind
I
of thing.
finished high school, I just knew I would be busy with university and school and that kind of thing, and it wasn't as much of a priority for me anymore. I didn't really love it. I was kind of just doing it because I felt like I had to do it at that point. But I mean, I missed it. I missed it after I stopped. I was like, oh, that was actually really fun to get
Well, you
to
did
do all
that
that
Drake
stuff.
challenge on Instagram, and I was like, how did she learn to dance like that?
Yeah, I don't know how I learned to dance like that. I remember going into junior high. So in elementary school, I went to Tempo, so a private school here in the city. So we actually didn't have like phys ed or anything like that, which is probably why I wasn't a very sporty kid. But I remember in junior high school, you started to get they had dances and stuff like that. And I remember going to my first dance in grade 7 thinking like, I don't know how to dance. Like I don't, like I've been choreographed, but I don't know how to dance. So I remember all throughout junior high and high school, I was always like, oh my God, I could never do this. But I don't know. Then the Drake challenge came and apparently I did something good. So
Just owned it.
just owned it. Yeah. The feedback was pretty incredible. That was fun.
How many views did that post get? Did you check? Doesn't really matter.
It's got like 1,050, I think.
Holy
which
shit.
is more than what I have followers. So I'm not really sure how that works. And I'm not a public profile, so for me that's pretty high.
That is. It's like somebody's in their basement just watching it over and over.
Yeah. Who are you?
The truth will come out.
Hit
They're
me
probably
up.
listening right now.
They probably are. Hit me up. Hit me up.
Totally. So you're pretty highly educated, I'd say. Tell us the journey of your schooling.
Okay, so after I finished high school, like most kids, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I teetered a lot. I actually was thinking a lot about pharmacy initially. I liked chemistry, even though I was terrible at science. But my favorite thing, I guess this is kind of a nerdy fact, my favorite thing was to balance chemical equations. I don't know why I liked it, but I really liked the challenge. So I wanted to be a pharmacist, and then I do have my cousin's a pharmacist, and some friends are pharmacists as well, older friends. And the feedback never seemed very good in the field. Maybe the people who knew me just maybe knew that it wasn't really for me. I don't know, but they didn't seem to love their job, and I really wanted to do something that I loved. So I sort of kept searching. And then I started thinking about, like, why else did I want to go into pharmacy? And a big part of it was because I wanted to help people. And I didn't really know how I wanted to help people. So, of course, my parents, being typical, were like, oh, be a doctor, So I knew I didn't want to be a doctor. I knew I didn't want to be a nurse. I really didn't like hospitals or that kind of thing. So it just wasn't really where I wanted to go. So I started to look into rehab. And I looked primarily into occupational therapy and physical therapy because those were the ones I knew about. So I started shadowing and taking some courses to learn a little bit more about that, and I found it interesting. And then my uncle, who's a doctor in Calgary, a family physician in Calgary, mentioned speech pathology and audiology, which I didn't know anything about. In fact, I'd never heard of it, especially an audiologist before. And so he just kind of brought my attention to it, and then I started just shadowing more in those kinds of places, and really liked the idea that I could help people without necessarily having to be in a setting that was so clinical or so sort of like in a hospital even or anything like that. Like you had a little bit more options. And then deciphering between the two of them, speech pathology, I felt like for me was a little bit too gray area, and I liked to see a difference right away. So I kind of liked how audiology was a little, I mean, there's still a lot of gray area, but it was a little bit more black and white as compared to speech pathology. And so it was a long journey, but I'm so glad I did it. So initially I actually did my undergrad in elementary education because I've always had such respect for teachers. And to be honest, as a kid, I thought being a teacher would be really cool. But I'm so glad I did it. I learned so much about the profession, and I had the most fun being in university taking the courses to become an educator. And I feel like there's so many skills that I've learned doing that I get to apply to my everyday job. But, you know, if I ever have a family or anything like that, I think that there's a lot that I could apply for my children as well, being that I was a kid that struggled in school. So I got to do that, and then as an elementary education degree, you don't have a major. Your major is general, so you get to pick your minor. So I chose my minor to be in educational psychology because that gave me the opportunity to take courses like ASL, American Sign Language, as well as just some deaf studies courses. So while that's not the same as what I do, because I work with the hard of hearing population, I got to learn a lot about the deaf culture, which was very interesting. And I found it to be very helpful because I have had clients come in who have maybe family members who are deaf, and you know, you need to be respectful of that culture, and it really allowed me the ability to do that because I don't think I would have known a lot about it had I not studied that. So it gave me a little bit of a background there, and then of course then I got to do my master's in audiology, so it just gave me a lot of background in that kind of culture and that type of you know, what that some people do struggle, and gave me the ability to help people that were having a hard time in certain situations, whether it be children, you know, young adults or seniors. So I don't know if that really answered your question.
It did. That was cool. Like, just like such a process, but so many tools for your toolkit that you could take away from that.
Yeah, which I think is great. And I think everybody should have that.
Yeah.
So I think it's nice that I got that opportunity for sure.
And you lived in Australia for a bit?
I lived in Brisbane for 2 years. Every September, October, I think about why I came back, because it's cold. Brisbane was great. I loved it. It was warm. It was such a great city. Initially, it was definitely the smaller of the big cities that were there, and I kind of thought, like, hey, if I was moving, why did I move to the smaller of the 3 cities? But it was the fastest booming. It was great because it just gave me access to so many different people and types of people, and it was the warmest. We didn't get cold, so in the middle of winter, I still wore shorts during the day, so it was the best.
What was your favorite thing about Australia?
The culture was really fun. I liked that I could walk around everywhere. I enjoy taking public transport. Just the life. It's relaxed life. It's not as fast paced, but people still get things done in a timely fashion. It's not like super laid back and things will happen when they happen, although some people do have that mindset. I really liked that. I felt like you got to enjoy every single day.
Do you keep contact with a lot of people from there still?
Yeah, I have some friends who were actually originally from Canada who now live there. I also have a couple of classmates who I was really close with. They were probably my favorite people in terms of getting to learn a lot about the culture, who I love and adore dearly, and they're still out there, and they're both audiologists practicing out there too, so yeah.
Do they ever visit you here?
One of them did. One of them came to visit with a friend of theirs. They kind of just did a drive-by, but they came to Edmonton for a few days, which was nice. I haven't gone back yet, but it's on my wish list of places to go because my cousin's actually out there studying right now too. So I want to go while she's there so I can spend some time with her too. So
get her done.
Yeah.
The thing about Australia is what I've heard about it, because I've never been, but I have friends that have gone, and I have like a cousin that does her work out of Australia. She's lived there so long that I've forgot what it's like for her to live in Canada. Mm-hmm. And it's just such an easy transition because it's same but different kind of thing. Like different animals, different climate, but sort of same general like Commonwealth type culture kind of thing.
Yeah, it is different, but it's nice to be so far away yet have the same language as well, which I think is like a really big barrier when you go to other places. So you don't feel awkward because you can still communicate with people and you can still understand what's going on. but still have the ability to sort of indulge in the culture that's there. Because it is different from us. Like, I would say, while they are a Commonwealth, I think, like, going to the UK is still different from here while they're a Commonwealth. I would say Australia and the UK are a lot closer in terms of their culture than here. We're a little bit more Americanized, I'd say. But
Yeah. Who parties harder, not hardier? Australia or Canada?
I'd say Australians do. Yeah.
How so?
Well, they, like they're the culture of, going to a pub after work on a Friday night or going for drinks or something is very common there. Whereas I don't think it's as common. Like, I think at least maybe not for me. I find that here people will go and they'll do things. It tends to be later on. So you'll see people, like, say on a Friday night, people will go out, but first they'll go home and change and, like, do all that stuff and then go out. Whereas there you'd see a lot of people coming straight from work on a Friday in their, like, we'd see a lot of men in their suits and women in, like, really cute outfits coming from work, going straight to a place where they would have drinks and dinner and stuff, and those places would often then eventually turn into, like, a club or, like, a late night lounge or something like that. So people would just not go home until, like, 5 o'clock in the morning or whatever time they'd go home. So it was very different. Whereas here, I find people do party hard, but I think they, like, take a break and they go home and they relax, maybe take a nap and then go out after.
You've got to see some of the locals at Central Social Hall, I tell you.
Yeah.
Like,
that's true. That place is bumping.
They get there, they came straight from work, and they don't leave until somebody asks them.
Okay, well, there you go. Maybe it's just me.
So, we met each other through spin. What brought you to the bike, and whose class would you say you rode most often when you were starting out as a rider?
As a rider, of course, I rode the most infamous of all spin instructors in Edmonton, Farah's class, all the time. Of course, our music always aligned, which made it a lot easier for me to ride her class. So that was kind of what I did. What was your first part of the question? What brought me to the bike?
What brought you to the bike?
I moved from the south side out to the southwest, and so I needed a new place to work out, and I was never really a gym goer. I didn't really know a lot about it, and I met Farah and a really good friend of mine, Rahana, who both used to spin all the time, or they still do, but were at that time spinning all the time, and they sort of tried to convince me to come to a spin class with them at 5:30 in the morning. And I told them they were crazy and that I was never going to do that. So they really just tried really hard. They're like, just come, you'll be with us, like, you won't be alone. And I thought, okay, I'd never taken a spin class in my life. And so I thought, okay, I guess I should try it. So I went on my own. I think it was a long weekend Monday, I think was the first class I went. And it was like at 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening. And I went to a class by myself and I didn't die. So I was like, okay. But I had bought this like 2-week unlimited pass. So I was like, well, now that I bought it, like, I'm not going to not go. So it was obviously easier to have people come with you. So the next day was a Tuesday, and I woke up bright and early to get there for 5:30. Luckily, I lived 2 minutes away, so it wasn't so hard to get there. And yeah, that was my first time on the bike, and I really enjoyed it. And I had never done any kind of cardio before that I enjoyed. I hated cardio other than dancing, which when I was doing that growing up didn't feel like cardio. It just felt like I was dancing and having a good time. So they they sort of convinced me that I should do it, and I enjoyed it, and I finally like had a good time. And what I found that I really liked about it was spin brought me in the zone, and whatever trials and tribulations I was going through at that point in my life, I felt like there were moments in that 45 minutes where I would just all of a sudden forget, or I would really focus on how I was going to get past it, or focus on how it was just going to be there for just a little bit of time, just like that pain going through that sprint was only going to be for 30 seconds, and then it'd be done, And so I think spin has brought a lot to me to learn how to focus and just to be very kind of selfish and learn how to put myself first to kind of get through things that might have been more difficult for me at that time.
Very relatable. The funny thing is, like, when I started into spin, like, I went to a couple classes with a group of people, and it was like I was going because I was with them. I wasn't going because I necessarily had the idea to go to spin. And then after some things happened, then I was like, okay, I need something to get me more fit. I need something to clear my head. I need something for a reset. And I was like, well, I pretty much died in that place, so I'll just sign up for the 2 weeks unlimited. I was like looking through the schedule, and I was like, all right, I've ridden like 2 classes. I know 2 of these instructors, and I was like, which one am I gonna ride? And I was like, well, 6 a.m. is the only one that works with my schedule. And so your class was like that first one where I went to, and it was just like me going in on my own in a scary place, scary environment. And then, like, as it went on, like when I was at that studio, yours was like the one that I went to the most, probably.
Aw, that's
So it was a cool experience. And just that's probably why you're relatable, because you're someone who went through pretty much the parallel universe. And like, obviously, like, I've resonated with the messages that Farah has put out, but I've also resonated with the messages that lots of other instructors have put out. And it's just totally that chance to be a little bit selfish, to reset, to tackle things that are shitty in life, and to kind of realize that you can overcome it, but you're also in that space with other people that are going through the same stuff, and it kind of feels like you're not alone. And that's a great thing about spin, which kind of answers my next question, but we'll ask it anyways. What's the most valuable thing that you associate to spin?
Yeah, I was thinking about that one. Yeah, I think, I think the fact that it does allow you to be selfish. I think that that's something new that I've learned. Like, I had never really thought about. I always thought being selfish meant something negative. And I think it still does mean something negative, but I think that there are 2 definitions to being selfish. And I think being selfish in order to make yourself better so that you can exude better energy for those around you, I don't think is a negative thing. And I think that we often forget that we need to be selfish and better ourselves so that we can be a better person for other people. And so I think having to sort of look within yourself and finding something that will allow you to do that is really important. Now, for me, that's been spin. That doesn't mean it's going to be spin for everybody else. And, people that have been through really hard times that might be similar to things that I've been through, I try to encourage them to find something. And I always tell them, for me, it was spin. And if it's something you want to try, I think it's worth trying. But don't feel that if it doesn't work for you, that you should feel discouraged or something like that, because we all have to find something that works for us, right? We're all individuals at the end of the day. So spin has given me the ability to find the strength to fight for myself. And I think what I really like about it is what I really like about it, I think, is that you can do it at your own pace. So I think that while you might be riding with a bunch of other people, they might be having a really good day that day, or maybe they're just really tired, but they just wanted to come for the love or the energy or something, right? So maybe their tension isn't as high as your tension, or they're not working quite as hard as you're working. It doesn't matter, like I think that every piece of growth is a piece of growth. So I don't think that, like, as long as you're challenging yourself, whether it means you're challenging yourself more or less than you did the last time, it's still a space for growth, and you're just not remaining stagnant in that moment, right? And there are days that we are all stagnant. There are days that we don't push ourselves as much as we possibly could because for whatever reason. But I think that as long as I think that you can pick yourself back up and at some point come back and just say, okay, today's a new day and today I'm going to start fresh, it's really important. So back to the point, I think that spin has given me, again, the ability to be selfish, to look into myself and see what my self-worth is and what I need in order to better myself, so that I can be more confident and then do better in other things that I'm doing, whether it be in relationships, in friendships, in work, in sleep, like in whatever, right? So
That's such a good takeaway. Like, people forget to give themselves permission to sort of put themselves first.
right.
There's so many, like, empathetic people out there that kind of feel like they need to be serving others over and over, but like who's going to prioritize them, kind of thing. And it's okay to, some people talk about being able to say no, and it's a good concept, because if you're not taking care of you, nobody else is going to be able to take as good care of you as yourself, kind of thing.
Well, and I exactly, I totally agree. And I think, I mean, I think to be very honest with you, as harsh and as blunt as this is, like, nobody gives a shit about you. Like, people care about you and they want the best for you.
Yeah.
But nobody can put you first, like as an actual priority. No, I would say not even your parents. Like, your parent, they will, obviously, but they will have to sacrifice themselves in order to do that, right? And I think that, and even then, they can't do as good as you can do for yourself, right? They'll try their ultimate and their absolute best to do that, but they can't, or a spouse, or whatever, right? A partner. And I think that we very, very much forget that. Nobody is going to be able to make you a priority as well as you are. So, you know, and I think that I've done both worlds. Like, I think I very much put other people in front of my needs. And I think I still sometimes do that. And, you know, it's hard because I think people get upset when you're not there, like, for them all the time, because now you've just kind of decided, hey, like, I just need some time for myself. And they're upset because you were never like that before, right? But, I mean, you have to live with yourself at the end of the day. And if you're not happy with, you know, being able to do X, Y, and Z, then then what, you know? So I think that unfortunately people will not like that you're putting yourself before them. But, you know, then if they're your friends or if they really want to be in your life, then they'll understand that you need to do that for you. And if they don't, then
it is what it is.
Yeah, let it loose, right? Like, do you.
Yeah, let it play out. I think, like, really, really good people in my life always find a way to be in my life.
Yeah.
That's what I like about really good people. And it's just a matter of, like, taking care of yourself first, because, like you said, like, nobody is better at taking care of you than you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a really solid takeaway, and I think, well, I'm hoping that people actually listen to that and that it resonates, because there's a lot of people that will just give, and then somebody just takes away what they've given, and then they're in the middle of a lake in a canoe without a paddle.
Yeah.
Just spinning in circles.
Yeah.
Because they got ditched.
Yeah.
It's no good. So, we all face a lot of roadblocks and obstacles in life. What's the toughest thing you've had to overcome, and what were the tools you used to get through it?
I'm not going to say what it was, but I'll tell you the tools that I used. I think that learning to be selfish was what it was. Like, I think that I found that in that experience, I found that I wasn't being selfish enough. I think I found that in that experience, I was allowing external things to control me. And I, you know, coming out of that instance and sort of looking down on myself, you know, after all that, I sort of realized that, you know, like, no one has control over me but me. And so, you know, there were mornings I woke up where I didn't want to wake up. There were mornings where I was just like, ugh, like, I just want to sleep. Like, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to talk to anybody, you know. But when I would sit down with myself and I would think about, like, why am I feeling like that? Like, why don't you want to get up and go to the gym? Why don't you want to get up and go to work? Why? And when I realized that it was those, you know, those forces that sort of were dictating why I wasn't going to go, because I was up all night thinking about it, I realized that, hey, like, you or, you know, these things no longer have control over my feeling anymore. And so because it no longer has control over me, it doesn't get to dictate what I'm going to do. So if I want to do it, I'm going to do it. And that would be my motivation to get up and do it, because these external things could no longer control me anymore. I wasn't in a position where I needed to be controlled by those things, nor was I controlled by those things. So allowing the space to be there for it to feel like it could control me was what made it very difficult. So to wake up and convince myself, or really just listen to myself in saying that, like, this is for me, this is about me, allowed me the strength to get up and just do things. And while every day was different, and while every day the outcome was not always the same, there were more days that were, that I put myself first, and there were that I didn't. And eventually they just were far and few in between. And most days I'm more selfish, and I get up and I do things because I want to do them, because I need to do them, because I feel like they're going to make me better.
It's a good way to answer it. And like that gives people something to work with, because there's obviously going to be like with spin instructors, with trainers, with people who are kind of in the public eye a lot. There's going to be people who kind of they like this person, they like what they put out, and they have this illusion that that person is up on a pedestal, that they never feel weak, that they never struggle. And so putting you on a podcast and having your people hear you say that, like you have days where you struggle, where you have to actually think, hey, I am going to put myself first. That is something that's extremely powerful for people that need to hear it. Sometimes like you can't say it enough, that everybody is like the same boat. Doesn't matter if you have like 2,000 followers on Instagram. Doesn't matter if you fill up a spin class. Doesn't matter if you write a book. Like everybody has bad days. So it's good to hear, and good to have like that tool of like, hey, just like put yourself first, be a little selfish. Like nobody's going to do a better job of taking care of you, kind of thing.
Well, yeah, and I think that being selfish and putting yourself first doesn't always mean that it's something that you want to do. Sometimes you're just doing it because you know it's something you need to do, to put yourself eventually in that place, maybe later on in the day, to feel more comfortable or more confident, like, I mean, there's days that I don't want to wake up and go to the gym sometimes, but I know often by not doing that throughout the day I'm going to feel a little bit more sluggish. I'm going to be a little bit off my game, because for me it helps me remain focused personally. So, those days where I know I'm going to have a long day and I'm thinking like, oh, I have the longest day, I don't want to wake up because I just want to sleep for that extra hour. I find that, those are the days that I need to get up even more. And so usually I'm good at peeling myself out of bed and getting it done. But we all have our days, right?
Yeah.
And you do need rest, and don't forget that if your body craves that, then give it out. But, sometimes it is a little bit of mind over matter.
I agree. Yeah. So if present day Ruhee could give 20-year-old Ruhee one piece of life advice, what would it be?
Put yourself first.
Solid. That's like our theme.
Yeah.
Like self-love.
Yeah.
So in Edmonton, what do you do for fun? If you're like, I'm a party, what does that look like?
I do like to go out and dance, I won't lie. That's probably one of my favorite things. I don't do it often, but if I could go to a club in the middle of the day, I probably would. Edmonton, we need more daytime clubs in the summertime. Yeah, that would probably be my funnest. I love listening to music and just dancing and having a really good time. So you might have caught me doing that Drake thing on video, but that's basically my life when I'm by myself all the time. So
where's your go-to place? Where's your watering hole? Everybody has one place that they're like, okay.
It used to be Fluid. If anyone out there remembers Fluid, that was my spot with my girls. It's now Avenue, which I don't think I may have been to once. I love Central Social Hall, and I love going to shout out to Silk and Entendre too. They're awesome out there, and I love those guys. Corey and Stefan are like bomb. So I don't know. It's hard to pick when you've got so many people doing so many amazing things in the city, for real. And I'm just the type of person that wants to support everybody. So when I go out, I just try to rotate between all my places, because I don't really know. Yeah, but
that makes sense. And it's cool. Like we have a city with so many choices. There's places where it's like, well, if you want to party, you got the one place where you party. Or you got the one place and it's got the one beer or the one wine, and you take that home.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have options, and like multiculturalism and entrepreneurial. Screw it. I'm not even gonna say the word. It's too early.
Too early.
So what does your life look like when everything is in place? What does your ideal life look like? What is your best life? Do you have a kid, a dog, an Escalade? Do you move back to Australia and surf the waves?
Oh, that'd be nice. Not that I ever surfed while I was there. I just want to be happy. I think I just want to live in a place. I don't care. I mean, yeah, okay. In an ideal world, I would live in a place that it was warm, like maybe something like California, where it was like decent weather all the time, close to the water. I'd love that. I'd like the ability to be able to walk around everywhere and not have to wear like 10 layers and a parka. But I really don't think it matters where I live, and I love this city. I love Edmonton. It is home, and it will always be home. I love the people here, and I remember living in Australia thinking like, hey, if I could just pick up the city of Edmonton and move it in this climate, I would be happy with that, because I think I just love the people here. I just don't love the snow. I don't like winter. That's where spin's really fun, because it feels like you're just walking into like the Caribbean or something, somewhere just listening to the best stuff and having the best time, and nice and hot and sweaty. But anyway, yeah, just to be happy. Like I want to just be, I'd love to have a family one day. I'd love to, be able to have my parents close by. I'd love to live in a city where I could have all my cousins in the same place as me. I think that would probably really make my heart really happy. Yeah.
Are you an animal person?
I wasn't. I like dogs now. It took me a while,
What
but
happened?
I do really like dogs. I don't know. A dog entered my life, and I fell in love with him, and yeah, I loved him a lot. But they're a lot of work.
Yeah.
Not that they're not worth it, but they're a lot of work, and I think that I'm not enough of a homebody to be able to be a fair caregiver to a puppy. So I don't think I would get one because of that. But I think if I had like a partner or a roommate or someone I lived with who could give the puppy that, I would be all for it. But yeah, definitely a dog person.
Sweet.
We did used to have a cat when I was little, although she ran away when I was 2. That was sad. But it wasn't because she was in our care, so we'll just say it was the person's fault. Yeah.
Fair enough. When I grew up, like, we had a good, 20 cats.
Oh, wow.
And they would just migrate to the place that had the best food.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we had the best food. So, I mean, we had a lot of cats, but you didn't really make personal connections.
Sure.
But then out of that group, there'd be, 1 or 2 that you bonded with. But I'd say, even having known all those cats in my life, I'd go with dogs if I had the choice.
Yeah.
We don't deserve dogs. Dogs are so friendly and... when you're sad, they're sad.
Yeah.
When you're happy, they're happy. They don't even know what you're happy about.
It's pretty incredible, yeah. Yeah.
But I definitely agree. With owning a dog, per se, that's a big commitment. That means you actually have to, be there for that dog. You can't be so much selfish anymore because the dog pretty much needs you.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of look through Instagram and enjoy other people's dogs.
I think it's just too, with my line of work, I'm not able to work at home or work from home. I think if I could, it would be different. I mean, and if it was feasible for me to bring my dog to work, I think it'd be different. But I think just with the lifestyle I have, I don't think that I wouldn't be a fair owner. Put it that way. Yeah.
Just gotta train it on all the audiology equipment. Get it to push all the buttons.
That would be awesome. Can you just test people's hearing? No, I'm just kidding. I love it. I love my job. It's so fun.
Totally. Well, what's your favorite thing about your job?
I love how many people I get to meet. So many people, so many different walks of life. Being an audiologist is great because you get to meet all different ages of children. I've got a 17-month-old that comes in, and I think my oldest client is 98 or something. I'd have to double check, but I've got everything and everything in between. So it's awesome. You learn a lot of people. You forget sometimes when you're not in the world in the world or in the industry where you're around a lot of bands and things like that. But we've got so many musicians in this city and so many people who come through. I've got a really great client who gave me a CD of his band, and it's just like so cool. It's amazing.
Who's the most famous person you've ever tested the hearing on?
I can't say.
Oh. Like, just they're that famous?
No, I can't say because it's.
Because got so many famous people that you don't want to make the other famous people sad.
I mean, basically, no. I mean, it's confidentiality too, right?
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Legit, 100%.
Yeah.
I can't argue that. If you were to give our listeners one piece of advice on authentically living life to the fullest, what would it be?
My mantra, while it maybe doesn't necessarily flow with the rest of the podcast from today, is actually, I don't know. My mantra is this: do unto others what you want done unto you. That is my mantra. So I feel like it speaks for itself. I don't really need to explain it. But do unto others what you want done unto you. Yeah.
That makes sense. I like it. Well, thanks for being on the episode.
Thanks, Chris.
Make sure to give it all the shout-outs that you can.
I know. I'm trying to think. Come visit me at the Audiology Clinic, Edmonton, if you want anything to do with your hearing checked or hearing protection. Right, Chris? It's important.
Yes.
If you want to come check me out at a spin class, I'm at YEG Cycle on White. Check out Chris, who's got a new project launching.
Invigorate Training.
If you need some personal trainings and you need to learn how to breathe while doing deadlifts, he can definitely help you with that. It's important. Just shout out to all my people. Thanks for listening to me.